The night before my wedding, my fiancé ran off to see his old flame because she claimed to be critically ill. To meet her, he ignored my attempts to stop him and drove away in the middle of the night. The result was a car accident. At that crucial moment I saved him, but I ended up so badly injured that I was paralyzed from the waist down. He swore he would never leave me, yet he soon turned around and married Emily White. In the end, I was abused to death by the housekeeper. This time I was reborn, standing once again before that familiar scene, my fiancé insisting on going to see his old flame. In my previous life I tried desperately to stop him. In this life I immediately cut ties and turned my back on him. Can you stop making a scene? Her family isn't here. She's seriously ill, and I'm the only one she can rely on. What are you jealous about? She's dying. Can't you be a little more understanding? The furious voice of my fiancé, Jason Carter, echoed beside me. I instinctively stepped back, as if waking from a nightmare. The terror of being tormented to death by the housekeeper hadn't faded, but I had been reborn to the time before all the nightmares began. Jason and I had been together for 6 years, struggling side by side to build our careers. Our company had just started to show promise, and both families had already settled the wedding details. Tomorrow was supposed to be our big day. But Jason had secretly rekindled things with his ex, Emily White. She pretended to be gravely ill, and without hesitation, he rushed to her. I tried everything to dissuade him, but nothing worked. In the end, I went with him. On the way, there was an accident. The moment a truck came barreling toward us, I threw myself in front of him. I was left paralyzed from the waist down while Jason only suffered minor injuries in front of both families. He promised to take care of me for the rest of my life and married Emily instead. My parents were devastated, their hair turning white overnight. My mother, overwhelmed with grief, suffered a fatal heart attack. My father, in despair, climbed to the top of Jason's company headquarters and jumped, using his death to force Jason into caring for me. Under public pressure, Jason only grew more resentful. He casually handed me over to a housekeeper and coldly watched me get abused to death. He never lifted a finger to help and even stopped me from calling the police. This time I chose to end things with him immediately. Tomorrow is our wedding, just hours away. If she's sick, doesn't she have family? Can't they hire someone to look after her? Why do you have to be the one to go? And why does her illness flare up right at this exact moment? I suppressed the hatred boiling inside me and quietly turned on the recorder on my phone. I've been with you for 6 years. Am I still worth less than her? She says she's sick, but there isn't even a medical notice. Jason, you believe her but not me? If you walk out of this house, then all these years of love were fed to the dogs. Today we're done. This wedding is cancelled. Hearing that, Jason grew even angrier. Olivia Lane, you're being unreasonable. If there were anything left between me and her, there wouldn't even be a wedding tomorrow. What's the big deal if the ceremony is delayed a day? If I'm not there, you'll be the one regretting it. If you don't want to marry into the Carter family, plenty of other women do. Break up if you want. Don't you dare try to threaten me with it. With those words, Jason turned and stormed out. I immediately raised my phone, snapped a picture of his back, and posted the photo along with the recording to my social media. I declared that my fiancé abandoned me for his ex, and that I was calling off the wedding right before the ceremony. 6 years of love, all for nothing. I posted everything across every social media platform, and soon countless people saw it and flooded in to comment. Some pitied me, some offered comfort, and some deeply empathized with my situation. Beneath the posts were countless messages. Sis, shine bright and move on. Crying over a scumbag like this isn't worth it. Anyone who betrays sincere love deserves the harshest punishment. He'll definitely get his retribution. Breaking up is the right choice. Now you can see what kind of man he really is. You stopped your losses in time. A brighter future is waiting for you. Reading those lines, I leaned against the wall and finally calmed down. What I had done was to keep evidence, proof, that Jason Carter had betrayed me first for another woman, in case one day he came back pretending to be righteous, twisting the truth and blaming everything on me. My parents saw my post and immediately called, demanding to know what was going on. So what about the wedding tomorrow? My mother asked, her voice full of worry. I told them everything plainly and firmly insisted I would never go back. He chose to return to his ex, which meant he had never forgotten her. So what was I to him? Just a replacement? I would never go back to a man like that. In my previous life, 6 years of love had been drained dry. I saved Jason's life and became disabled, but I never once thought of forcing him to marry me out of moral obligation. Yet he had been the one driving recklessly when the crash happened. A large part of my injuries was because of him speeding. My parents were elderly, living only on their pensions, and couldn't possibly shoulder the massive medical costs. I only wanted Jason to take responsibility, at least pay for part of my treatment. But time after time he found ways to deny it. It was obvious his company was making huge profits, yet he refused to spend even a dime on compensation. In my past life, when he came to the hospital to visit me, he even dared to put on a cold, mocking face in front of my parents. She insisted on following me to the hospital to visit me. He even dared to put on a cold, mocking face in front of my parents. She insisted on following me to the hospital. Why should I pay tens of thousands in medical bills? The accident wasn't my fault. Go make the truck driver pay. But that driver had died on the spot. His family was destitute, leaving behind only a widow and orphans who didn't have a cent. My parents, their hair already turned white, still had to humble themselves to beg him. Olivia saved your life. Even if you ignore the love between you two all these years, at the very least you should be grateful. If it weren't for her, you'd be the one lying in that bed right now. Please, Jason, help us so she can get better treatment. But Jason only sneered coldly. Did anyone ask her to throw herself in front of the car for me? She did it on her own, so why should I pay? Don't talk about tens of thousands, even a few hundred. I wouldn't give. The woman I love now is Emily. I'll never spend money to save another woman. Olivia ended up like this because of her own choices. Who told her to risk her life for me? I never asked her to. And Emily already said that even if I became disabled, she would still love me. Don't think you can tie me down with that fake moral righteousness and force me to take care of her forever. Because of that heartless declaration, my mother grew so angry she collapsed from a heart attack. I stared at the ungrateful traitor, seething with hatred, wishing I could tear him into 100 pieces. 6 years of love had turned into nothing but a cruel joke. I was left broken while he married someone else. Now, given a second chance, I would take back everything bit by bit. I wanted to see for myself. If I hadn't shielded him that day and he had been the one left disabled, would Emily still love him? It didn't take long. Soon Jason saw my social media post. Enraged, he came looking for me to settle accounts. It was just visiting my ex. You bitch. Can't you be a little more generous? Delete that post right now. Don't ruin my son's reputation. The fact that my son is willing to marry you is already a blessing for you. Don't get greedy. Honestly, with his conditions, marrying 3 or 4 wives would be nothing unusual. Now that he chose to marry only you, you should be grateful instead of making a fuss. You're being outrageous. His mother had never liked me, always finding ways to make things difficult. But having lived one life already, I wasn't about to humble myself again. That malicious old woman, I would post whatever I wanted. Not only would my friends see her son's disgusting face, but I would plaster it across every platform for the whole world to know. After saying what I wanted, I hung up and blocked the numbers of Jason Carter and his parents. In my past life, for the sake of 6 years together, I had endured endless humiliation from his parents. And what was the result? After I was crippled in the accident because of Jason, they never once came to visit me. Instead, they encouraged him to break off the engagement and marry Emily White. The day my mother died from illness, Jason's mother even came to my face and arrogantly said, "Serves you right." Those who destroyed my family's lives, I would never forgive any of them. My revenge had only just begun. The next day, my phone and inbox exploded with calls and messages. "Olivia, did you hear? Last night, your fiancé was in a terrible car accident. He's in the ICU right now. A coworker whispered to me while I was working. He's my ex now. What does that have to do with me?" I shrugged. My coworkers, having already seen my post and knowing Jason had betrayed me, chuckled and said, "Guess this is what they call karma, huh?" I didn't know if it was truly retribution. All I knew was that Jason's parents were now going crazy, searching everywhere for me. Word spread that Jason's life had been saved, but he was paralyzed from the waist down, crippled for life. His parents were desperate to find someone who could take responsibility and care for him forever. Meanwhile, Emily White had completely vanished. Naturally, they thought of me. The moment my shift ended, they were already waiting outside my company's gates. Olivia Lane, my son is lying in the hospital after the accident, and you still have the nerve to go to work? Jason's mother rushed over, grabbing me. Hurry up and get to the hospital to take care of him. I calmly pushed her hand away. Your son has nothing to do with me. Don't forget, just a few days ago we broke up. But she acted as if she hadn't heard. Break up? What breakup? Have the families agreed to that? So now that my son's in an accident, now that he's disabled, you want to abandon him? She sat down on the ground, wailing and accusing me. Oh God, my poor son. How unlucky he is to end up with such a cold-blooded woman. He dated you for 6 years, spent so much money, and now that he's injured and in the hospital, you cancel the wedding and cut him off. He dated you for 6 years, spent so much money, and now that he's injured and in the hospital, you cancel the wedding and cut him off. How could you be so selfish, so cruel? Olivia Lane, you'll face retribution for this. Passers-by stopped, staring at me with strange looks. Once a woman is branded as greedy, selfish, and ungrateful, society condemns her everywhere she goes. But how could I possibly let Jason's parents pin such a label on me? I immediately played the recording from the night before. Break up then. Don't ever think you can use that to threaten me. Don't even dream of holding me back with it. Jason's voice rang out clear. The onlookers instantly sneered in disdain, whispering among themselves as they looked toward his parents. So he abandoned her for his ex and insisted on visiting her, then got into the accident. Isn't this retribution? Obviously it's his fault. Why blame her? I called the company security, who came and threw the two of them out, but Jason's parents still refused to give up. They weren't going to let me escape taking responsibility for him. They went straight to my parents. Your daughter knows our son loves her. If not for the accident, they'd already be married. Now he's in this condition, and it's clearly tied to the broken engagement. Your daughter must marry him and take care of him for the rest of his life. Hearing this, my mother clutched her chest in fury. My father didn't waste words. He grabbed the broom and drove them out. Your son tangled with his ex and deceived my daughter for 6 years. He crashed because he sped off to see her. What does that have to do with my daughter? His ex won't take responsibility, and now you want my daughter to? You expect her to care for a crippled, unfaithful man? Keep dreaming. My father had been a taekwondo instructor for years and trained diligently. With swift, decisive moves, he struck the Carters and shoved them out the door. Jason's mother and father screamed insults down the hallway as they left, drawing the neighbors out to watch the commotion. Everyone knew by now that Jason had abandoned me for his ex and gotten into the accident because of it. Reap what you sow, they said, and now they still wanted to entangle me? Did they think I was stupid? Jason's mother had hoped to smear my reputation, but I had already told the neighbors everything about what Jason had done. The Carters gained nothing and instead became the laughingstock of the building, leaving in embarrassment. I went on with my work, living as if nothing had happened. Jason wanted to see me once to explain, but I firmly refused. Until one day, a so-called mediator came to me. She shoved a microphone in my face. Your fiancé is paralyzed from the accident. He just wants to see you one last time. Why won't you go? I heard that before the crash you two were about to get married, yet after the accident you didn't even show up. You canceled the wedding outright. Don't you think you're being ungrateful? One glance and I recognized her immediately. Wasn't she Emily White's best friend? Emily didn't dare show her face, so she sent someone else to fling mud at me. I stared straight into the camera pointed at me. If they wanted to stir trouble endlessly, then I was more than ready to play this to the end. Let's see who truly ends up disgraced. That man is my ex. Before the accident, we had already broken up. He insisted on canceling the engagement because he wanted to rush to see Emily White. And on his way to her, he got into the crash that left him crippled. He doesn't go to her for responsibility but tries to push it onto me? A man that vicious? You actually want to defend him? The woman's face turned purple when I called her lady. But you were with him for 6 years. Emily is just an ex. If you had stopped him, the accident wouldn't have happened. Don't you think you bear some fault? If you had kept him from leaving, maybe he wouldn't be disabled now. Shouldn't you take some responsibility? Her shameless twisting of words was beyond belief. I laughed coldly. His legs are on his own body. How exactly was I supposed to stop him? Did you want me to tie him up? Fine, I'll put it plainly. A dog that forgets its leash, running wild in the street, covered in filth but still eager to chase after scraps. How could I possibly stop that? She instantly latched onto my words. So you admit Jason's paralysis is partly your fault, don't you? She pressed, glaring at me fiercely. I folded my arms, unmoved. You're really trying to pin this on me? Why don't you talk about his ex if she hadn't called him in the middle of the night? She had claimed to be critically ill and told Jason to come to the hospital. That's why he sped off and got into the accident. Yet instead of holding her accountable, they came after me. And you call yourself a mediator? You dare call this fair? I shot back. The so-called mediator cut me off sharply. Don't dodge the question. We're talking about you right now. Jason only wants to see you one last time. How can you be so heartless, letting him lie there alone without even a visit? What kind of heart do you have? Fine, I said coldly. Isn't it just one meeting? I'll go. I want to see what tricks Jason Carter still has up his sleeve. At the hospital, Jason lay weakly on the bed, pale and gasping. Mr. and Mrs. Carter busied themselves emptying bedpans and wiping him down, clearly prepared for the mediator's visit, deliberately making him look as pitiful as possible. Olivia, I was wrong, Jason whispered the moment he saw me. That night I was just angry at you. Can't you forgive me? Are you really going to leave me just because I'm disabled now? 6 years together, doesn't that mean anything to you? Do you despise me because I'll never be able to hold you again? He knew his life was essentially over and wanted to drag me down with him. I gave him a small smile. How could that be? If we can't be lovers anymore, we can still be friends for life. By the way, where's Emily White? You rushed to the hospital in the middle of the night for her and ended up in this mess. Why isn't she here taking care of you? I turned to the mediator. Didn't you call Emily? Jason got into this state because of her. So where is she? But it doesn't matter, I continued evenly. Even if Jason betrayed me for Emily as his friend, I'll make sure the two of them get the grand wedding they deserve. Faces around the room shifted instantly. Jason's lips trembled. Olivia, you still won't forgive me? The one I love most is you, not Emily. She and I are just friends. I laughed softly. Really, the night before our wedding you ignored everything I said, broke off our engagement and rushed to her. Then after the accident you want me to stand in as her substitute and take care of you, Jay. You're shameless beyond compare. No sooner had I finished than a figure in white came running in and collapsed to her knees before me. Looking closely, I saw it was none other than Emily White herself. I stepped back immediately, but she clung to my pant leg. Please, Olivia. I know this is all my fault, but Jason truly loves you. That night, he only argued with you because he was worried about me. That's why he drove to find me. Please forgive him. He can't live without you. Emily clung to me with a pitiful expression, making it seem as if I were bullying her. Calmly, I pushed her hands away. If you admit it's your fault, then you should stay and take care of him for the rest of your life. After all, he got into this accident because of you. The two of you should be tied together, life and death. Jason couldn't hold back anymore, the veins in his hands bulging. Olivia Lane, don't go too far. Just then, the mediator glanced toward the cameraman, signaling him to stop. The camera switched off, and Emily's best friend dropped her act as well. Emily has been pampered her whole life. How could she know how to care for a patient? You may be the ex-girlfriend, but you still have the responsibility to look after him. Stop calling her a homewrecker. She and Jason haven't even done anything improper yet. Emily White stopped crying and straightened up. Jason and I are just like brother and sister. Please don't misunderstand. If only you had stopped him that night, this wouldn't have happened. Mr. and Mrs. Carter rushed forward, grabbing my hands. Only if you take care of our son can we be at peace. Emily doesn't know how to care for anyone, and she doesn't even have a job. How could she possibly support our son in the future? I yanked my hands away and glared coldly at Emily. You can stand here perfectly fine, and you call yourself critically ill? You staged all this just to ruin my wedding with Jason. And now that he's a cripple, you don't want to take responsibility? Emily stammered. I was only joking that night. I didn't know it would turn out this way. Mr. and Mrs. Carter turned furious eyes on her. while Jason clenched his fists, still trying to shield his precious Emily. She didn't mean it. She never expected this to happen. I sneered. So now he gets into an accident and you want me to shoulder the blame for someone else? Jason, you must be dreaming. If you want someone to care for you, look to Emily. Leave me out of it. Emily panicked at my words. This has nothing to do with me. I was only joking. I never wanted to spend my life with a cripple. The brainless slip burst out of her mouth, and only then did she realize her mistake. Jason's face darkened, his eyes turning cold toward her. Jason, I didn't mean it that way. You can't blame me completely for this. Emily tried to explain, but Mrs. Carter's hand whipped across her face with a resounding slap. If it weren't for a bitch like you, my son wouldn't be like this. If he doesn't recover, you'll never escape our family for the rest of your life. The mediator quickly rushed over, pulling Emily behind her. Mr. and Mrs. Carter, the most important thing right now is for Olivia to take responsibility for Jason. Emily will help, of course, but how could you strike her? At her words, every eye in the room turned toward me. Emily's help, of course, but how could you strike her? At her words, every eye in the room turned toward me. Emily's so-called best friend bared her teeth at me. Olivia Lane, let me make this clear. I'm a well-known mediator. If I post the footage from earlier online, it'll destroy you. You have two choices. Either obediently stay and care for Jason for the rest of his life, marry him, have his children, or I'll make sure the entire world knows you're a selfish, greedy, ungrateful woman. Your parents are old, and your mother has a heart condition. If the netizens come after them, you can imagine the consequences. I raised an eyebrow. The internet sees everything clearly. People will figure out who's right and who's wrong. She snorted. I'm an A-list mediator with 5 million fans across the web. All I need to do is splice the footage a little and I can turn black into white. Do you really think those 5 million will bother to investigate the truth? Your family will be torn apart by netizens sooner or later. I pretended to be afraid. So this isn't the first time you've done this. With your dirty editing, how many people have already been destroyed online, even driven to death, right? She didn't bother denying it. Good. Since you know, then obey. Otherwise you'll be the next one to be killed by netizens. Forget having a job. You and your whole family will receive funeral wreaths and death threats every day. I smiled faintly. Checkmate. From my pocket, I pulled out a phone that had been live streaming the whole time. The stream already had thousands of viewers, comments pouring in nonstop, cursing the Carters and Emily. I tilted the camera toward them. How about a smile for the audience? The comment section exploded like fireworks. She calls herself a golden mediator? She's trash. A bunch of scum like them doesn't deserve mercy. Sis, don't ever let yourself be threatened. People like this need to be ripped apart by netizens until there's nothing left. The so-called mediator screamed, turn off the live stream, shut it off right now. One of the cameramen rushed over in a panic. Nah, it's over. People are unfollowing in droves. The video's being reported nonstop. Every comment is curses. What do? I kept filming and even kindly introduced her to everyone. This here is the so-called gold mediator Naomi Wong. Make sure to give her plenty of attention. In less than a minute, the feed was flooded with insults. Naomi's social media account was reported until it was shut down completely. Her inbox overflowed with abuse. Families of her past victims even came to her house, splashing red paint and throwing eggs all over her doorstep. Watching it all, I couldn't help but laugh. In my previous life, after I was paralyzed, it was Naomi Wan who edited footage to frame me. She used my disability as leverage to force Jason Carter to break up with Emily White and marry me instead. Back then, I suffered not only physical pain, but also endless torment from the internet. A group of extremists even came to my home, shoved me out of my wheelchair, filmed me lying motionless on the ground, and uploaded it online for laughs. My parents begged everywhere for help, but got nowhere. Naomi forced them to kneel before she would delete the video, then turned around and told her fans that my parents were hypocrites. Babies, just look. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. But don't worry. Your sis will always fight for justice and truth. Never compromise with evil. And now? Retribution. One by one, every advertiser cut ties. Naomi was sued for defamation and faced possible detention. Less than a week later, she dragged Emily White to my door and dropped to her knees to beg forgiveness. Olivia Lane, I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have twisted black into white. Please just say one word to help me. Tell them it was all just an act, just a joke. I beg you. I don't want to go to prison. I don't want to drown in debt. She grabbed my leg, sobbing uncontrollably. I know I shouldn't have meddled in things between you and Jason. It was all Emily's idea. She pushed me into it. Please explain for me. Give me a way out. I can't survive this. At that, Emily exploded. Naomi, I treated you like a sister. If I hadn't pitied you, I wouldn't even have agreed to come here to apologize to Olivia. And now you're pinning everything on me? Before I could even answer, Naomi shot to her feet and slapped Emily hard across the face. Her eyes burned red. You cursed star. Wasn't ruining Jason's life enough? Now you're dragging me down too? You cried to me that you had no way out, that you couldn't stand a life with a cripple, begging me to help you. Otherwise, I never would have touched your filthy mess. And now look, I've lost my fans, lost my account, been sued, face mountains of damages while you walk away unscathed. I thought you were my sister, but you destroyed my life. The two of them screamed at each other, then lunged into a brawl. Naomi struck Emily across the face while Emily yanked Naomi's hair viciously. They ignored everyone around them, ripping each other's secrets wide open. Naomi shrieked that Emily was nothing but a fake saint, a shameless mistress who stole other people's men. Emily screamed back that Naomi was a filthy whore, who had once sold herself to a 70-year-old CEO just to climb up to A-list host status. Neighbors crowded to watch, stunned, no one daring to step in. Some even recognized them and secretly filmed, uploading the clips online. This time Naomi had no path left to crawl back. I stood watching the two dogs tear each other apart, my heart full of satisfaction. Once I'd had enough, I turned and walked away. By then, I had already bought insurance for my parents and taken them. I took my parents on a long trip to rest. My mother's heart condition couldn't be allowed to worsen because of all this filth. After settling everything, I sold all my shares in the company. Jason Carter pocketed a decent amount of money from the deal. When he found out, he called me in a rage. How dare you sell your shares to someone else? I rolled my eyes. Those shares were mine. I can sell them to whomever I want. What right do you have to lecture me? How could you pull the ladder up after crossing the bridge? Now their shares outweigh mine. And I don't even have decision-making power in the company anymore. Do you really hate me so much that you want to destroy me completely? I'm already a cripple. What more do you want, Olivia Lane? How can you be so heartless? Jason roared down the line. I listened to his howls with perfect calm. This is all the retribution you deserve. How dare you blame me? Jason, let me tell you, heaven has eyes. Everything happening to you now, you earned it. With that, I hung up and blocked his number. Mr. and Mrs. Carter came looking for me at the office, but I had already resigned. Olivia left days ago. She doesn't work here anymore. HR told them coldly, glaring with open disgust. By then, the internet uproar had only grown louder. Almost everyone knew the Carter family for the rats they were. Wherever they went, people looked at them with nothing but contempt. They tried calling me, but I had long since changed my number. I quit my job and traveled with my parents, enjoying peace for the first time. Not long after, a friend told me that, unable to find me, Jason's parents had turned their wrath on Emily White, forcing her to take responsibility. But Emily had no intention of spending her life with a cripple. She tried to run, only to be beaten bloody by the Carters and dragged back to the hospital. Terrified, Emily called the police, but the Carters didn't let go. They sued her, claiming she was the reason their son was disabled. Now Emily lived like a fugitive, hiding from gossip and accusations wherever she went, on the brink of madness. As for Jason, the crushing cost of his treatments eventually forced him to sell the company. He lost everything, his reputation ruined, his body broken. When he realized that Emily had never truly wanted to care for him, his adoration turned into bitter hatred. Watching those wretches tear each other apart was pure joy for me. Every day felt like a holiday. Until one day, the police came knocking at my door with questions. That was how I learned the truth. The entire Carter family had been arrested. It turned out Emily had tried to flee the city and cut all ties with Jason, but his parents, enraged that she had ruined their son, refused to let her escape. They broke into her house in secret, drugged her and dragged her back to their hometown. There they imprisoned her, forcing her to repay her debt by bearing children for their family. You ruined our son's life. Now you'll pay it back. If you refuse to take care of him, we'll kill you, they threatened. Emily was chained and locked in a cowshed, fed scraps, treated worse than an animal. Every day she was forced into Jason's bed. Her life a torment beyond description. 2 months passed before her friends and family realized she was missing and reported it. When the police finally found her, her belly was already swollen, her arms and legs broken, her body covered in bruises with barely a patch of skin left uninjured. It turned out that after becoming disabled, Jason had sunk into utter depravity. He ordered his parents to break Emily's limbs and invented new torments for her daily. Her mind completely shattered. She was sent directly to a psychiatric hospital. The Carters were arrested and charged with intentional assault. Emily screamed for them all to die. She terminated the pregnancy, but due to severe malnutrition during it, she suffered heavy bleeding during surgery and had to have her uterus removed. From that moment on, she would never again have the ability to bear children. I went to the hospital to see her. The instant Emily White saw me, she went insane. Olivia Lane, you bitch. Why didn't you shield Jason from that accident this time? Why weren't you the one suffering instead of me? Why did it have to be me? I'll kill you. Why has my life turned out this way? I hadn't expected Emily to have been reborn as well. That was perfect. Now she was barren. Her past scandals plastered all over the internet, and anyone could dig them up with the slightest search. Emily, are you satisfied with this ending? I laughed aloud. She clapped her hands over her ears, shrieking like a madwoman. Her once proud, delicate face was covered in scars. Jason had slashed her features beyond recognition. Without at least $100,000, maybe $200,000, she would never rebuild her looks. Who would ever want a woman who was both disfigured and infertile? Emily, don't even dream of clinging to some rich heir again. Jason had just suffered a flare-up in his injured legs and was being treated in the room next door. If you have time, you should thank him, I said casually. If not for him, you wouldn't be in this state. My meaning was clear, and Emily's face twisted with hatred. Goodbye, old friend. I turned and left, heading for Jason's ward. Unlike Emily, Jason's face was unnervingly calm. When he saw me, his dull gray eyes suddenly lit up. Olivia, how did I end up like this? Didn't you stop that accident this time? Didn't you save me? Inside I sneered. So Jason too had been reborn. Perfect. Those two dogs truly deserved to suffer retribution together. I feigned ignorance and looked at him blankly. What nonsense are you spouting? The day of the crash? I wasn't even with you. You got behind the wheel yourself to go see Emily. Jason tried to sit up, but the pain from his wounds forced him back down. The stench of infection seeped from his festering injuries, making me instinctively step back. His face twisted in agony. Why didn't you stop me? Why didn't you come with me? He whispered in despair, his hand fumbling toward his lower body. Looking closely, I saw his legs were gone, his face mutilated beyond repair. No, this has to be a dream, a nightmare. He pressed into his wounds and the stabbing pain told him it was reality. Tears streamed down his face. Why is it like this? I was supposed to be successful, whole. Olivia Lane, why didn't you stop me? Why didn't you save me from that accident? His voice grew shrill and bitter. I crossed my arms and laughed coldly. And why exactly should I have stopped you? Why should I have taken the accident in your place? Didn't you say in our last life that I threw myself in front of the car willingly? Didn't you say you never asked me to, that you wouldn't even pay for my medical bills? Didn't you say that even without me you'd be fine? Jason froze, realization dawning. Olivia, so you were reborn too. You saw the accident coming and just stood by. Smack. I slapped him across the face. So what if I was? Being a cripple doesn't feel so good, does it? Don't worry. This life is long. Take your time to savor the pain I once endured and slowly rot away in it. Jason's eyes went bloodshot. He lunged at me, but without his legs, he crashed to the ground with a thud. Police outside rushed in at the commotion, quickly hauling him back onto the bed. Jason's face twisted in agony, blood soaking through the sheets from his torn wounds. He glared at me with venom, spitting curses non-stop. I didn't care in the slightest. Instead, I delivered one final blow, my voice calm and cutting. Your precious lover is lying right in the next room. Didn't you once say that even if you became a cripple, she would still love you? Yet this time she aborted the child and even wanted to send you to prison. At those words, Jason Carter's face twisted with rage. Emily White. She dared? She dared to abort the child? If not for her, I would never have ended up like this. I'll kill her. I smiled faintly. No, you should thank her. Once your wounds heal, you can roll yourself straight into prison in your wheelchair. Jason had finally met his retribution. Those two pieces of trash had received the ending they deserved. I laughed aloud and walked away. Not long after, I heard the latest news about Jason and Emily. Emily, suffering from dissociative disorder, took advantage of a moment's carelessness from the police, grabbed a fruit knife and stabbed Jason straight in the heart. He died on the spot. His gray-haired parents cried bitterly, mourning their son's tragic end. As for Emily, her severe mental disorder landed her permanently in a psychiatric institution, never to be released. Mr. and Mrs. Carter, for the crimes of unlawful imprisonment and intentional injury under especially serious circumstances, were both sentenced to life in prison. Before he died, Jason had wept, begging my forgiveness. He said he finally realized the mistakes he made back then, that he should never have treated me that way. But even at his death, I could not forgive him. In my past life, I hadn't only hated Jason's cruelty, I hated him for forcing my parents to their deaths. Never in this lifetime would I forgive a man like him. I admit I once loved the wrong person, but what fault did my parents ever have? He refused to pay my medical bills, that alone I could have endured. But driving my parents to their graves? That was a sin I could never excuse. Now at last everything was over. After days of dark skies, the sun finally broke through, the clouds dispersed. I took my parents' hands and led them into a brand new life. When the storms had passed, I stood at the edge of the sea, the waves lapping gently against the white sand, carrying with them the scent of freedom and peace. My parents, healthier now thanks to regular checkups and a peaceful life, held hands and smiled beneath the sunset. Watching them, I felt a simple happiness I had never dared to dream of in my past life. Our new life no longer carried the shadows of those who once caused me pain. No more lies, no more betrayals. Heaven itself had delivered justice. And I had finally learned how to let go and move forward. In this life, I not only reclaimed justice for myself, but also protected the people I loved most. I was no longer the Olivia Lane of the past life, the woman who had thrown away her family's happiness and her own life for blind love and foolish trust. Now I was stronger, wiser, and above all, I understood my own worth. I didn't need a man to define my life. I didn't need love to prove I was worthy. I chose to live for myself, for my parents, and for the bright tomorrows still waiting ahead.